Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Tech Blueprint Podcast. This is episode 3, where I was joined by Adriana Ignat. Adriana is the founder of Vekt AI and probably one of the most refreshingly honest voices in the AI space today. Her journey is a brilliant one, from what she described as modest beginnings in Romania to landing a role at Google and now building her own startup, helping companies use AI in ways that are practical and meaningful. We talk about how not coming from a traditional coding background has helped to shape her approach to leading technical teams, and why some of the things we now call AI today have actually been around for years, just without the buzzwords. She also walks us through Vekt AI's unique three-pillar model, spanning everything from gamified learning tools to robust enterprise audits, and also shares some of the most common challenges companies are facing when trying to adopt AI, plus what they should be thinking about instead. This episode is packed with insight for anyone trying to cut through the noise and make real progress with AI. So if you're one of those people, I highly recommend listening on for more. Good afternoon, Adriana. Thanks very much for joining me this afternoon.
Hi, Jack. Thank you for having me.
All good, all good. So look, keen to get stuck into question one, and probably the most important topic of all. Like, what inspired you to start Vekt AI? And if you could explain what sort of gap are you trying to fill in the market today?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's a really good question. I think, like most founders will tell you, is that whenever they, dip their toes into becoming founders, it's usually something very close to their heart that ignites that passion. So it's usually part of their journey and personal experience, and it's definitely been the case for me. Essentially, Vekt AI was born out of my tedious journey with, I suppose, learning about AI and keeping up with the hype, with the many developments in the space at a very rapid pace, despite of the fact that I've been actually in the space for over a decade now. I suppose when I started in signal collection, data collection, security, and then association or automation later on, it was mostly ML, and it was mostly pertaining to harmonized data sets that had a shape. And you could actually apply machine learning to it, and then later on, as we can see, AI has started to penetrate even data that's not harmonized, and that, for me and for everybody that I know in the space, has been a true journey of transformation. And I know the pitfalls of gaining AI literacy. I've been there, and I've kind of experienced that myself, both as a leader and as an individual in my organization. And so Vekt AI is truly based on my personal experience about, I suppose, knowledge in the world of AI and expertise, gaining expertise, and then becoming really commercial and competitive on the back of that knowledge. And then I suppose the gap that Vekt AI will cover is, I think it's multidimensional. Vekt AI truly wants to, and the tagline for Vekt AI and for me personally, it has always been AI readiness simplified. I think everyone and their mother is trying to get AI ready. Even actually, this is not a metaphor. Even my parents, who've just come back from a holiday where we spent time with family, and my parents, who are well into their 60s, they were asking me about AI, and it was just interesting to see that it actually affects, and not affects, but maybe sparks interest across all age groups. I guess AI readiness to me means to be not only literate in the space, but also to know how, or to be able to measure your impact once you become AI literate, or your organization does so. And then to be able to have access to competitive insights around your markers and your performance as an organization or as an individual in your industry compared to other competitors who are probably on the same race of becoming AI literate and transformed. Vekt AI truly is an experience. Essentially, is a platform and a SaaS product that will gamify the journey of becoming AI literate, and it has a couple of levels, like every game. And so we will probably talk about this later in the podcast. But essentially, the gap that we're seeing across all of the industry all of the industries, all of the sectors, public or private, large and small companies, is that they feel like they are slow compared to the
Mm.
curve of evolution in adopting AI, or even, further down the line becoming AI native, if that is at all an objective, a business objective for an organization.
Fantastic. Thanks very much. Um, so you have led teams, like mentioned already, in terms of in AI and in product, but without necessarily coming from like a coding background. So
Yeah.
how has that shaped the way you approach building AI products and sort of leading technical teams then?
Oh yeah, that's very interesting. So let me first answer the first part of the question, I suppose. It's a true art to manage or lead the output or the delivery of a technical team when you're not a technical person yourself. And the technical spectrum is very vast, and you can be in tech but completely
Mm.
removed from knowing how to code. Over the years, I kind of acquired new skills in the space. And I will say in my experience, there were a couple of ways to do this, right? One way was through the funnel of program management. And I was a program manager for large engineering teams, particularly in Google, where we delivered, millions, billions in revenue, and we served billions of users across the world. So I think program management is a function of velocity and a force multiplier of engineering results and product management results. And then another way to do this is through, or maybe a parallel way to do this, and if you append that to program management, is relationship and stakeholder management, which I think
Mm.
in my career have been something that I've nurtured and kept very close to my heart, and I suppose to my craft. Relationship management, and particularly around tech teams, is incredibly important, because it's something that's often overlooked, and these teams are typically very focused on the product or the feature that they're launching. And it's something that, if you're able, through your expertise in this domain, to bring relationship management and stakeholder management to the table, your team will be that more successful. And it's not that you don't necessarily know, or don't necessarily have to know, how to understand code. It's
Yeah.
more like, through relationship management, what this brought me, and it's not necessarily social engineering, what this brought me and why this made me good at my job, is that I could understand very quickly, without being necessarily a proficient engineer, if something is difficult to build 3 quarters, or so knowing what your teams, whether they report directly into you or not, what the impact on them is, can be gained through the function of relationship management, and I suppose keeping a close eye on your teams, on their goals. Now, the way that has shaped my style of building not only products with AI, but also AI ready teams, or I guess even culture and vision in my venture today, is the fact that I have brought from that space a lot of curiosity around domains that I'm not necessarily an expert in, but I completely understand the impact of their expertise, and I
Mm.
completely understand when something is going to become a contingency and how to unblock that. So a culture of curiosity is something that it's probably a leadership style, truly, and a builder style as well. And I've kind of had this, I think it's part of my personality. I'm a very nosy person and a very curious person. And I remember driving my parents crazy, even in early childhood, with the why question. Like, I was actually nicknamed Why, the why little girl, because I have been a very curious, and am a very curious person. And I think you can definitely leverage that in your career, and in your leadership style, your building style, even your founder style. I think it's a critical and key quality of founders to remain curious and stay searching.
100%. In terms of then, so like you mentioned to me anyway, that years ago you were I suppose, like already doing things that sort of felt like AI.
Yeah.
But now they've officially sort of got that label. What's changed for you, and I suppose what do you feel, or sorry, what still feels like hype to you?
Yeah. When I worked on very large products that spanned across, billions of users and had an incredible impact on the business, the top of mind thing was not necessarily um, the ability to talk to your data like the way we do today or we think we want to do today, but the ability to keep your data very clean and to have very high quality data. I think this is something that continues to be the bone marrow or the
Mm.
backbone of every step we take for further with AI. When I started working in kind of like machine learning automation models around signal collections for ad optimization. So I used to work in a team that essentially what we did all day was to study advertiser and publisher user signals and then optimize the experience of you as a user seeing an ad at a particular point in time, when you were maybe interested to buy something or not, but the interest might be. So there were so many models and so many ways an ad could be shown. Um, Also, I will say that this kind of like data sets were so interconnected, but they were very, very structured, and there was a
Sure.
framework always attached to it. So that's so the models would have a somewhat easier way to learn. So the machine learning, kind of like the
Yeah.
foundation of what we know as AI today, was top of mind for me and my products. I think over time, when if we're fast forward to today, that remains a constant. It's true that with the developments in this domain, we're seeing a lot of, or like less dependency to having harmonized data sets, because AI can help you harmonize it. And we're seeing less dependency in having, super structured, super, cleansed, anonymized, I suppose, things, because there's more and more support from this technology to become harmonized in your data. But what hasn't changed is the quality of the data, and as kind of like a critical criteria for AI to work well, and I suppose security of the data. And I think what's something new probably that's becoming top of mind for many organizations, and I don't think it was in the past, is how responsibly and ethically we interact with this data, and we collect it, we store it, we secure it. It's becoming very clear that with agents with large language models, even if they're roped off and they're adjusted to your organizational needs, a responsible AI, and particularly I guess explainability in your data, becomes very critical. So I think this is something very new, and it's top of mind for the regulators as well. It seems to be a huge challenge in this space. I think over the years we've inherited a lot of um, we've inherited data that had a lot of bad behaviors or bad patterns that are not necessarily were not necessarily top of mind, or a business goal, especially in the SMB world, to correct or to apply corrective leadership to the way that data is being collected or stored, anonymized. So I think this is definitely something that's an emerging and
Yeah.
urgent theme to address. Um, the hype, the hype, I think is especially in my line of work, right? And what I'm seeing is many engineering teams live in this "you only live once" type of bubble now with AI
Mm.
taking. So that there's a YOLO culture around coding with AI or having AI agents in your team and now managing AI. to code and given more control to AI. And I think, like we talked yesterday at our event, in the past you wouldn't see this at all. It was even difficult to share knowledge and craft and engineering between engineers on the same team, sharing the same business goal and OKR. Whereas now you'd see, engineers deliberately and very easily, with a lot of curiosity and probably genuine interest to see how this technology behaves, they're giving, database access to AI, and we've seen the Replit disaster there with a whole database being wiped out because the AI panicked. So I think the hype is definitely condensed around, oh my gosh, everyone is doing it, I must be also doing it. So people are giving away their craft, their control over their features, over their technology, over their implementations to something that we haven't truly tested. I mean, we test people so heavily. Everyone will tell you if they're trying to get in one of the found companies as an engineer, they will be tested for months on end with very difficult tests. And we probably don't apply the same standard of scrutiny to this AI technology. I think that's the hype in my mind. I think we'll overcome it. It's one of those things, like you see people riding scooters, this electric scooters left and right, and they're very fast and they don't have protection and they don't have, helmets and everything until an accident happens, the regulation will not pick up with or even like internal regulation will not pick up with the disaster. So I think companies need to start thinking about deliberately thinking and prioritizing disaster protocols around interaction with AI, because we're definitely the last few generations of human-only engineering and product teams. We will start having agent product managers, agent designers, agent engineers, and we need much more scrutiny and responsibility around how to manage and how to assess their performance down the line.
100%. It's important to, I suppose, consider some of the potential risks that could come with all this. It's quite scary, but it's still very interesting, of course.
It is.
So Vekt AI has a unique 3-pillar model, from sort of gamified learning tools to sort of enterprise grade audits. Do you want to break that down for us and share, I suppose, how these parts can sort of fit together?
Oh gosh, I would love to talk about Vekt AI. It's all I talk about to everyone. So Vekt AI started off, very honestly, Vekt AI started off as very small consultancy, and it really wanted to go to small and medium businesses and help them get AI ready. When we started doing this, we realized the business needs and the tech needs are far more greater than what we thought they could or they needed, or even what they thought they needed, right? And then Vekt AI quickly evolved to incorporate new tiers and more advanced tiers in relation to AI readiness, I suppose, AI transformation. But we also realized that we can't scale a consultancy because the work is always going to be on people, and people are difficult to scale. So we also realize that there's so much knowledge sharing in the space, which is great, right? Like I benefit from that a lot. And there's a lot of consultancy services in the space, some of which are very, very expensive and very comprehensive. There's a lot of, I suppose, learning platforms in the space, and we started thinking very seriously about what is actually the experience of gaining AI literacy. So there's a knowledge sharing element there involved and validation, but also what's the underlying need here? Because it's not necessarily like learning a new language, right? Like it's not like learning Spanish and then you go to Spain once a year and you're ordering your cerveza. This is kind of like so much more important for companies, because this is a beginning of a new era, of a new world order. And so down the line, companies care about gaining AI literacy because they want to stay competitive and they want to transform their services. And also they want to tap into new ways to do business. And they might be starting to do business with AI itself.
Yeah.
And so this to us started to feel less utopic and actually much more practical. And we realized that a great way to do this is not necessarily through here's a course,
Mm.
here's a certification, you can put it on LinkedIn, which by the way is a great thing to do. But we wanted to go the extra level, and we realized through a lot of research with CTOs, CPOs across Ireland, particularly, that it would be great if their teams could be put on missions. And
Mm.
immediately, since I have a gamer child and I know everything about Minecraft and whatever all of these games for kids, I made the connection to a gamified experience for getting AI ready. And so we have various levels, and we're developing various levels for AI readiness, just like in a game. And you can create your bespoke organizational world and maintain it through, first of all, gaining AI literacy and understanding the concepts, but also another, tier of service that we offer. And I suppose that's part of the gamified experience is the comprehensive data audit. But we've talked earlier that without that,
Mm.
you can learn everything about AI. You can go and have like a 3-year course in TUD, and that's very good. But things are
Yeah.
changing so quickly, and your data and the way you collect it and the way you think about commercializing the data insights you get from your data is much more critical to your business than, I suppose, knowing everything about every single AI tool and investing millions in all the licenses for AI tools out there. So the first layer is obviously kind of like mission-like AI literacy. It's very competitive. Players, or I wouldn't call them necessarily players, but like mission takers, can gain AI literacy through a mission-like experience, and then they would be tested. They would have all sorts of rewards and incentives to do so. So we're going to work with the companies to create incentivization for their teams to become AI literate. Maybe it's, I don't know, maybe it's an extra holiday, or maybe it's a 13th salary, because all of those things are really important, and they kind of like lead the mission to the next stage, which is, okay, now that everyone in your team feels somewhat AI literate, let's think about who your organization is, what are the business goals, and what data does it sit on. And then this three elements of I suppose business value need to be comprehensively audited and improved or transformed to allow that AI literacy gained at the previous level to take place in a transformative manner. The third and probably one of the more advanced tier of our service is when the organization engages as if they want to become AI native. And I think a lot of the companies don't know it yet, but most companies in the space will have to become somewhat native in relation to AI.
Mm-hmm.
The platform helps with implementation, and we will have many AI providers and partners from, the big AI providers like Microsoft and Google and AWS and so on in relation to cloud services and LLM, to
Yeah.
kind of like MCP providers or agentic providers like maybe Gentic, that is also an Irish native startup in the space. And what we're trying to create is a two-way ecosystem where if you were a mission taker on the gamified Vekt AI platform, you can choose from kind of like, I think in the games world, they're called skins.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
could,
Yeah. Fortnite and stuff.
yeah, there you go. Oh, listen, I know all about it. So you could probably try and choose the type of like skins, AI skins that your organization might want to buy or implement,
Yeah.
and even pilot before they're making, final decision. Now, this is all great, and when we came up with the idea, and we TM'd it and we patented it, and it was all great. But I think it kind of brought me to thinking, all right, so what? So all of these companies will engage in mission line. They will have like a Minecraft like experience
Hmm.
there. They will all become AI literate, and they will manage their data stacks, and they will probably choose a partner to implement AI. That's great. But then so what? What happens to the organization afterwards? So how do you land after you've been somewhat AI transformed? And I think
Yeah.
one aspect of AI transformation that is not being talked about enough today is comparing your organization to the rest of the industry you're in relation to, I suppose, where you are on that radar. And the platform will also allow some of the organizations that are engaged on more advanced levels to basically get measurability and metrics in relation to their AI transformation, and possibly engage with other companies on the platform to essentially tap into their competitive knowledge. I think the AI readiness or the journey to gaining AI readiness is the greatest equalizer in tech at the minute. Everyone feels behind, and
Mm.
but we don't know how far behind we are against our competitors, or if we're really that behind, or if we're so the platform's ultimate objective here is to give measurability of AI readiness at all times. It's something that companies will be able to measure. Like we've heard even yesterday, their companies have AI budgets now for all sorts of licenses and tools and classes, and they do all sorts of workshops and all that. But there's really very little measurability of the efficiency of that expense.
Yeah.
And so Vekt AI is going to offer that information, which I think is invaluable. And by the way, we will offer that for free.
Okay. Fantastic. So unique. It is something unique. Like obviously, I said to you before. Like I'm constantly talking to organizations in this space on a daily basis. But
I'm very
that sort
glad.
of
You
gamified
can be my
experience
first angel investor.
would be cool for people. Particularly I like how you talked about the different levels and things like that as well. But you're right. Everyone needs to try and get up to speed somehow, or else they're going to risk falling behind. Essentially. Okay, so you have gone from what you described as pretty modest beginnings in your life to like ultimately landing at a role at an organization like Google. How did that opportunity sort of shape your thinking in terms of, I suppose, like lessons from that environment that maybe influences the way you sort of operate today?
Oh gosh, yeah. Listen, I think that was the opportunity of a lifetime. I mean, I indeed came from kind of like very humble beginnings, not the most incredible university in the world. Romanian Transylvanian family, both parents in somewhat, engineering, finance domains, but really all of my family is in Romania. So I always thought
Mm.
that I would probably take over the family business, which was a small accountancy firm, and essentially drive it for the rest of my life, which hasn't been the case because before graduating, actually, I was recruited into Google in Poland, and I started working in ads right away. And that has then led me to Ireland, where my career developed closer and closer to product. Um, there are so many lessons, I guess, that I've taken away from Google, and that have also shaped my leadership style and the way I operate in terms of execution. The the most important one, I think, that was served to me every single year, if not every single day at Google, was that there's no such thing as luck, or maybe I never experienced that, and but there is such thing as complete preparation to the best of your ability, and chasing
Yeah.
chasing an opportunity at the right time. There is such thing as being the right person at the right time in the right place, and that's only going to work if you're very prepared and very good at your job. I think another lesson is the discipline of thought, and that curiosity that we've talked about previously and constantly exploring areas of development. And I'm one of those people who, in my performance reviews, which are infamous at Google, I suppose, everybody like dreads them, but they are very relevant to you as an individual and as a leader growing into your career, maturing into your career. I was always one of those people who are like completely not interested in the things that I did well. And I was always eagerly waiting to hear where I didn't do very well, or like,
Yeah.
kind of like, oh, where, and that was always something that stuck with me. And I could see, other peers of mine would print off their, testimonials from clients, which is a great thing to do. I think, and it's not that it didn't matter to me. I was very happy when something went really well, but it just never stuck with me in the same way that something that showed me that I still have so much more to learn or
Yeah.
improve on. And I've always been in search of that information. So if there's anything that I can tell anyone who maybe finds themselves in this kind of like pattern, is that it might not sound like the healthiest pattern, but it's something that definitely has helped me succeed and figure out my path, to the point where now, I'm definitely doing something. And I've always, by the way, this kind of curiosity and relentlessness has always put me in a situation where I actually did what I liked. And the
Mhm.
minute I got kind of like not that impressed with what I was working on anymore, I was able to immediately shift. And I think that's also something that is very true for me and for my career, that, and I think it's very rare. I genuinely have always worked on things that I was very passionate and wholeheartedly believed in.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Um, I suppose, like, if we're looking ahead over the next, I don't know, 6 to 9 months, maybe even a year, what would success look like for Vekt AI? What kind of impact are you hoping to make in this space?
I want to think about success for Vekt AI in terms of really changing the game in AI readiness for at least one company. If at least one company is going to say, we couldn't have done it without Vekt AI, and if AI readiness simplified becomes
Mm.
something that people start to believe in, that it is actually, or it could be simplified, and it is actually, it looks like a tedious journey, but it could actually, with the right partners, it could actually
Yeah.
be, it's very possible it could actually be very successful and can unlock a lot of potential for organizations. Success for me means that the impact that we have started off designing is going to be felt for these companies as well, and that we're going to serve as a force multiplier for their own success. And that if at least one CEO or a team of engineers feels less trepidation around AI cost, AI risks, AI safety, responsible AI implementation, the right solutions for themselves, then I'll be happy.
100%. And that will happen. That will come. Um,
That will happen.
okay.
Hopefully sooner than 6 months. We're already having a lot of discussions in the market, and it's exciting to see. I think it's a momentum that um, it's unprecedented, and I'm
Of course.
very lucky. Although I did say there's not such thing as luck to be where I am.
Of course. No, 100%. Like I said earlier, it's, it does come down ultimately at the end of the day, but who you know when things like that. That's just the way life is, really.
Yeah.
Final thing for me, bonus question for our, I suppose, the companies out there that are maybe looking to implement this or potentially even have a chat with you. But what kind of advice might you give to organizations trying to implement tools like AI today?
Um, Remove your teams from this YOLO mindset. I think truly understand that this can be a very murky water, and people can be easily suffocated or drowning in it without proper protocols.
Yeah.
The advice that I would give to leadership particularly is that despite of what you might be seeing on LinkedIn or in the news, you absolutely need to gain AI literacy to a very detailed level. As I said before, this is a new order and it's a tall one. And it's difficult for people who have matured in their careers and
Mhm.
perhaps, have, I mean, at a very human level, I completely understand it because there's somewhat of an ego and pride to that career and to that expertise. And it's hard to come back from that and say, oh, I have to learn AI or learn about these things to, a very detailed degree. Now, I will say that while you do so, filter the information that's appropriate for the future of your company. And in order to do so, you need to understand what the future of your data and of your business looks like. Even if the present of your data is somewhat an ideal or, it's not, and that, and to be honest with you, that's no shame because we're seeing that it's across every single company we've talked to, the data is not in a good place. Okay, so
Yeah.
let me just start with that. um I guess coming, removing that pressure for yourself as an individual, whether you are a leader or otherwise an individual contributor, and really allocating some time during the day to experiment with these tools and understand how they work, understand what they don't do, not only what
Yeah.
they do, is super important. But I stay by the fact that a lot of this YOLO culture, or like, oh my gosh, we need to do it now, we need to test everything now, we need to implement everything now, and there's a lot of money being thrown at these tools for the experimentation sake, is it has to somewhat be calibrated and balanced with, hold on, who are we, what kind of data do we sit on, what systems, what's the architectural cost for our infrastructure to become AI ready,
Yeah.
what kind of solutions do we currently use? I mean, if your company is a complete wrapper around a Microsoft solution, you probably, there's no point in you, going for solutions that are not aligned with that, because simply because your data won't respond well to it. So there's very practical things that leaders in the space have to start asking their teams. And I would just also say this is very much a team effort as much as it is an individual effort. And demanding your teams to constantly gain AI literacy without you yourself doing your exercise, that exercise, is
Yeah.
not a key for success.
No, that's perfect. It's really good advice. I'm sure people will appreciate that. But look, Adriana, thank you very much for
Thank
joining me
you.
today. I think that
Yeah,
was
this
great.
was great.
And
Yeah, I love the
as
question.
always, I'll be sure to make sure to tag you and stuff in the post, and put a link in the comments. So thank you
Super.
very much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Jack.